Fala pessoal, tudo bem? Sejam bem-vindos a mais uma live aqui do canal. Hoje eu estou com uma live muito especial, sei que eu sempre falo isso, né? Que é uma live muito especial, mas hoje estamos recebendo aqui um convidado internacional. A gente já teve outros convidados internacionais aqui, mas hoje é um convidado especial porque é um assunto também especial. Onde a gente está falando sobre RavenDB. A gente vai falar um pouco sobre o banco de dados, o que é, como que vocês podem começar a estudar, né, sobre o RavenDB. E eu estou hoje com o Dian, ele vai se apresentar já já, e a gente vai falar um pouquinho sobre o início com o Raven, os projetos, onde você pode usar, né, quais projetos você pode usar, e etc. Vocês podem ficar à vontade para mandar as perguntas aqui pelo chat, aqui do lado do chat aqui. Eu vou traduzir para ele em inglês, tá? Para a gente dar sequência nas perguntas. Então pode perguntar em português, não precisa perguntar em inglês, tá bem? E a gente já tem um script aqui preparado para executar de perguntas, mas obviamente a interação de vocês, as perguntas são muito bem-vindas. Okay? So, hi Dian, how are you
Hello.
doing? First, I want to thank you for your time to be here. I'm very glad to have you. I was just talking to the guys that we are. I will translate some questions from Portuguese to English here, and we are gonna to introduce RavenDB to them. Tell a little bit about what is RavenDB, where they can find some stuff to study, and they can ask us any question they want, right? So the first thing I wanted you to introduce yourself, tell us a little about of you, what your role on RavenDB, how do you meet RavenDB? Feel free to introduce yourself.
Okay, thank you. So I'm developer for over 20 years, and I started in the outsourcing industry, and for the past couple of years, I'm working for Shift, which is a startup company from San Francisco. I met RavenDB. I was aware of RavenDB via Oren's blog. So Orenini is the guy who created RavenDB, and I was following his blog for a number of years, and I got very interested in RavenDB, and I started then attempting to build a community around it and to help promote what I think is really, really good database. Unfortunately, it's not so well known around the world, but I think it will take its place, which it deserves.
Great. So Oren is a famous guy here in Brazil also. I think that a lot of developers follow his blog. This is very incredible. So great. I think that the first question is not a technical question, it's just a curiosity. I just place it here for myself also. Why Raven, the name RavenDB? Do you know where does the name came from?
So whole genesis of RavenDB comes from the story that Oren was participating in open source projects, and he first started working on NHibernate. So NHibernate is the port of a well-known ORM from Java world. He was working on that in 2006, 2007, I think. And then he started building a bit of business around it. He became consultants for the companies using NHibernate and using relational database in general. And then he noticed that same problems are happening over and over again. So company has a problem with slow database. You go, you pay them a visit, you can see that some things are missing from the database, like developers did not create indexes, hence the queries are slow, or they have select n+1 problem with ORM and things like that. So RavenDB is, you could say that it was born part of a kind of frustration Because in the end, Oren, if I remember correctly, Oren was joking on his blog that he will start like placing this bet. Okay, I will arrive at the company in the morning, and by the lunchtime, I will detect where the problem is. And he started working on the profiler for Entity Framework, which is now full-fledged product. For Hibernate. Then later on, he created also a profiler for Entity Framework. And then he likes to code, he likes to research code bases. He likes to look at other people's code. So he started to look at this NoSQL database, which was called CouchDB.
Yeah, it's a little bit famous here also.
Yes, and he was inspired by CouchDB. He wanted to make something that would be as good as CouchDB, but to correct certain problems he noticed with CouchDB. So what he created was first called RhinoDivan database, and divan is a Hebrew word for couch. So he created like also couch database, but in Hebrew. And then rhinos, hibernating rhinos is the name of his company. So it was RhinoDivan. And then over time, as a wordplay, that converted to RavenDB. So if you start pronouncing RhinoDivan fast, you will see the wordplay. So that was the genesis of the name.
Great.
And then not only that, he got inspired by it. So, for example, when they were implementing low-level storage engine for RavenDB, they took a Russian word for Raven, Voron, and used that as a name for a low-level storage engine for RavenDB.
Great, thank you. And also, I think that Raven is the most intelligent animal or most intelligent bird in the animal kingdom, I think.
Yeah, I saw some footages like.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Okay, so for those who are starting right now and they are seeking for some database, what is RavenDB? What can you tell us about RavenDB?
So shortly speaking, RavenDB is NoSQL database with transactions. And there's a lot of packed in that. So let me try to go piece by piece. So first thing is NoSQL. NoSQL is it's not negation of SQL, relational database. So it's coming from not only SQL. So it's a different approach to databases. So if you all remember that first paper on relational databases by CRUD was made in late 60s, early 70s. Then in early 70s, Oracle was first relational database. And up to this date, people make equality sign between relational databases and databases in general. So some 15 to 20 years ago, in the mid-2000s, people started experimenting with different storage models, with different ways of modeling data. And basically, that is how NoSQL movement was born. And we all know about CouchDB. We all know about MongoDB. Those are most prominent names from that area. Idea is that you should be able to store documents. So basically, if you're building business application, if you're following domain-driven design, if you're thinking about how to create your model to describe your business domain the best, you will create in your programming language of choice, like CSharp. You will create documents. You will create classes that are just describing things. So if you have some kind of document, like piece of paper, which is contract or invoice, you will use CSharp to model that properly. But then if you're working with relational database, your relational database does not know how to store complex data structures. And that's a big problem because you have this famous or infamous impedance mismatch between your object graph and your relational database. So if you have order with order lines, and order, if you take a look at the paper, your order, your invoice has these lines. But then if you try to save that to a relational database does not know how to store collection. So now you need to go and make separate model for data persistence in your relational database, which will, for example, in this case, invoice with invoice lines will materialize into 2 tables. So that is one part of the story that now you need to maintain 2 models, you need to map between them, etc. With NoSQL databases, you are able to store your business domain objects, your classes can be modeled according to your business domain, and then your NoSQL database is able to store them as they are. So your database is able to support you, so you're not bending around your database, you're working more naturally. So that's the NoSQL part. The other important thing is transactions. RavenDB was the first NoSQL database that supported transactions. And transactions are very important. If you don't have transactions, then you don't have basically reliable database. And reliability is something that we all expect from databases. So shortly speaking, RavenDB is NoSQL database that supports transactions.
Yeah, those are some great points. That because when we're talking about modeling, and we did some talks here regarding domain-driven design and some other stuff here. So there are some things that I really like on NoSQL database, which is persistency states. For example, you have your model, you can leave your business rules on your application on a CSharp code, which is a way easier to test, for example, and just you can simply store this is the state of these objects over the database because they are documents. The second point, which is I think that it's very great about NoSQL and for Raven also, is mutability. As we are storing documents, we can version these documents, and we can have some kind of mutability going on very, very easy. And the third point, I forgot about it, but okay, I will remember on the go, and we can go back to this topic. But there's also we can think about NoSQL as document also, and I think that there's a good difference between NoSQL and database. I know that there are a lot of people which are very familiar to model based on the database. Start from thinking about the tables, how they are going to relate, and I think that when we are working with NoSQL, for example, the way to think it's a little bit different, as you told regarding the order and the line of this order. They are stored on the same collection. There are a few mistakes that I saw on some NoSQL database, which are you have the order collection and lines collection. They are related.
I also think I think we all were in people with some experience. We were all present at these projects where you have big whiteboard and engineers gather and start drawing boxes. And these boxes should be representing business domain, or in the sense, maybe not DDD, domain-driven design, but they should be talking about like business entities, and they are drawing a database, relational database diagram. And from my experience, that's usually the point where it goes into wrong direction right away.
Yeah, I strongly agree with you. Great. So Raven is a NoSQL database which we can transact inside it, which is very cool. And if the guys want to start learning about RavenDB, which place do you recommend? Do you have some URLs? Do I have some docs that we can follow?
Let me share my screen, where I think it's already shared.
Yeah, you're sharing.
Okay.
I will let me place here.
Okay, great. So natural place to start is ravendb.net. So we can share all these links later on. And this is natural place to start with. And there's a lot of learning resources, as you can see. So starting with the bootcamp, which is very nice because it enables you to easily go through tutorials and go perform simple exercises and get no basics of RavenDB. So you have these units and exercises. Then as you go on and learn about things, you also have this RavenDB demo website where you can go and inspect CSharp code, for example.
Oh, great.
And here is the typical example of what I was talking about. So as you can see here, we have suppliers, categories, and products. And here is how you store. So this code stores data into database. So you can see it's a really low ceremony code. And RavenDB supports this nice notion of document session, which is very similar to entity framework context. So this is combination of unit of work and identity map.
Great.
So you're simply able to define your business classes, instantiate your business domain objects. You can store them into the session. And then in this line session.save changes, transaction is created. And this is the only moment you communicate with database. If this line completes without any problems, you can be completely sure that your data will be stored safely in your database. What is also nice is when you load your documents, when you change them, session is tracking changes. And then when you say session.save changes again, only things that you changed in your business domain objects will be saved, sent to the database and saved.
Great.
What is also important is that you have this good properties as to transactions. And in this case, you have a transaction that will be atomic. This means that either all these things will be saved or not. There's no chance that part of these documents will be saved and some of them will not be saved. And this is very important. So canonical example, if you're doing, for example, some kind of money transfer from account A to account B, you don't want to take money from account B and save that, and not save money that arrived on account B, and vice versa. So this is very important property, that this is something we're taking for granted, but not all databases support transactions properly. So
Great.
this is also a nice resource for learning with nice examples of how you can create documents and store them. What is also interesting is that you have new company here, and then you can store it into the session, and without going to the database, session assigns ID to your company. So that way you can minimize number of trips to the database.
Great. And it uses like a GUID for storing the unique identifiers.
So let me, I can show it to you. There's nice publicly available, publicly open instance of RavenDB. And now maybe we're going into a bit more details, but if I'm going too technical, please do tell me.
No, it's fine.
So as you can see, this is similar thing as Enterprise Management Studio for SQL Server. This is Raven Studio, and nice thing is that this is a web application, and this is served by the database itself. So as you can see, I'm now looking at this server. I don't need to install anything. I can see like some general parameters of my server, and I can see databases, which are in this case publicly available. I can create a new database, for example, and start playing with it right away. So as you can see, there's even feature here where you can create some sample data. And now I have my sample database. So you see how RavenDB is low ceremony database. It took me 1 minute to open Studio, to create new database, and to populate it with some sample data I can work with. And overall, RavenDB is database that supports you as you're building things. It will not get in your way. So, for example, it's also schemaless. What this means. So, if you take a look at these employees, and if you take a look at this specific employee, you can see what I was talking about. So, this is one document. Or if we go into orders that I was mentioning, so you can see I have document order with these order lines, as you can see it here.
Nice.
So RavenDB can support storing your whole object and pulling it away, and you can work with it. And RavenDB is also schemaless. This means that, as you can see, I have employees here. But I can, without any problems, go. And for this employee, I can add property age, like this. So now this employee will have property age. Others will not have. So there's no null value here. These other employees simply don't have that property. So this is also interesting because RavenDB is schemaless. There's no strictly defined schema. And RavenDB can support storage of various objects. You can go even and implement polymorphic storage. So you can have various categories of employees, store them all together.
Very nice. Just to recap to guys here, I think that most of people that are watching us here are .NET developers. I'm sure about that because we have a lot of content regarding .NET here on the channel. So for those who work with Entity Framework, for example, as John said, it works like your data context, so you can do a lot of things in memory and then persist the objects or the state of the objects on the database. And we have two questions here. The first question is regarding the transactions. They are by default, or do you need to start the transactions? And the second one is how the primary key is generated if you do not need to hit the database or something like that.
So transactions are supported by default. So if I go into something like, let me see if I have creation. Okay, I have create related document example here. So when you open session, when you say session.save changes, all these changes are saved in one transaction by default. There's nothing else you need to do in order to produce a transaction. So all these three objects and their changes will be either all of them will be saved or none of them will be saved. So transactions are supported by default. This is very important property of the database. You only become aware of how important it is if you're working with a database that's not properly supporting it. So, for example, MongoDB for a long time, when you say, okay, save my changes, it was holding things in memory for, I don't know, 100 to 100 milliseconds. When things get quiet, it would save them to hard drive then. But if your server goes down, that's a problem, because you think that you saved your data, you gave your data to your database, but data was not saved. When it comes to second question regarding IDs, it's very simple. RavenDB is very flexible. So I can go and do something like this. Okay, let's create user. Call him John. And I have user slash. So when I save it, I created one user. So this is user collection. And as you can see, RavenDB assigned ID by itself. So this is one way of assigning IDs. But there's nothing preventing me from doing something like this. User slash John, for example. I can go and assign whatever I want here. Or you can even go and do something like this. User slash Brazil slash Sao Paulo slash office 1. And then I have, you could call it semantic ID, because now I can say, okay, give me all users that are starting with this prefix. And I will get all Sao Paulo employees or users. Also, you can go and put GUID as ID. So RavenDB is highly flexible. So depending on your needs, you can let RavenDB assign IDs like this, as you can see. So number, and this is the letter that denotes node in the cluster. So that's default choice. Or if you need any kind of custom IDs, you can go and assign them yourself. All of that will work. Or if you're importing from some other database like SQL Server, you'll be able to easily import existing IDs and continue working.
Great, great. Thank you very much. There are more questions coming. On transaction failure, it will return an exception, as you said before, right?
Yes.
Session.save. And there's a lot of another question here. Why they choose to develop RavenDB in C#? Yeah, it is developed in C#.
Yes. So there's an interesting story about RavenDB in C#. So Oren started working on it in 2009, and first commercial installation was in April or May 2010. And I think Oren was using C# because he liked C# as a language. But interesting thing happened. If you remember, Joe Spolsky had this blog post about not so smart things you can do in your life as a developer, and rewriting existing application from scratch is considered usually bad thing. But what was interesting here is that when .NET Core came out, RavenDB crew sit down and decided, okay, we will re-implement lots of things, and we will switch to .NET Core. And you can say this was a bit of a gamble that paid off, because RavenDB is now, if you take a look at the website, you'll see that RavenDB is now multi-platform database. It's very fast. It even runs on Raspberry Pi. So on Raspberry Pi, you can achieve over, on version 3, if I remember correctly, you can achieve over 13,000 write operations per second. So it's very complicated. If you go and download it, it's archive of 91 megabytes, I think. So C#, I think, and we can ask Aaron that, I think it proved to be a good choice, because nowadays whole .NET ecosystem is reworked with .NET Core, and it's very fast. If you take a look at the benchmarks, if I remember correctly, this is one of the authorities on benchmarks. You'll see that .NET Core is now very fast framework, so it's a good choice when you're writing applications. Yeah. So as you can see, in this measurement, it's number 10, ASP.NET Core. So whole .NET Core is now a good choice. I know it might be a strange choice to build something like database in C#, but from what I can see, it turns out to be a good choice. So it's widely popular mainstream language. It's modern, and there's a big community behind it.
Yeah, there are some great points to consider before building a product, right? Great. Yes. Whoa, thanks. I think that there are other questions that we can ask you here. We are just a second. Okay. When we talk about projects, different sides of project, small project, big projects, does RavenDB fits on small projects also? For example, I have such a small product nowadays, which is my personal website for the students to do the course and other things. Does RavenDB fits on my small projects, or it's just focused on big projects with a lot of transactions and other things?
Frankly speaking, when I was reading and learning about RavenDB, that was biggest obstacle for me, because I was thinking, okay, this is NoSQL. NoSQL as technology was promoted by companies like Google. Google developed MapReduce, which is also a mechanism for conquering large amount of data. And I was aware that NoSQL as technology exists, but I was thinking, okay, I'm a small guy building hobby projects. I'm not a Google, I don't need that. And over time, I realized that RavenDB is something that can help me prototype fast, and I can release something very, very soon. And then if I want to continue working with it, state of that prototype will be decent. So RavenDB is what is interesting. If you go to NuGet.org, you will see various NuGet packages there. But what is interesting is there's even a RavenDB.embedded, I think. So you can go even and install this NuGet package, and you will have something very close to SQLite. So you will have database within your project. So that's how small you can go. You don't, in this case, you don't need separate server. You just go install NuGet package and you have it right away. So this is nice for small project. As I already shown, RavenDB is low ceremony database. So if I switch to my Visual Studio, this is all I need to do to work with my RavenDB. So as you can see, let me zoom it a bit.
Thank you.
So you can see. Let's even go to 150%. So this is minimum amount of code you need to work with your RavenDB. There's a concept of document store which represent one or more RavenDB servers. You need you download certificate, and this is very important because security with RavenDB is taken very seriously. So you are using X509 certificate to access your database. So I have URL of the server. I have certificates applied here, as you can see. I have database name, and that's it. I initialized my abstraction of a database. And this is what you do. You open session, and you say session.load employee ID. That's it. So as you can see, RavenDB is low ceremony. I can get started going in 10 minutes or less. So this is also nice for small hobby projects. What is also interesting with RavenDB, it supports integration testing. So for example, if, let me show you something. This is one of the projects I'm working on these days. So I have some behavior-driven domain exercises here. So if you take a look at this project, you will be able to see that I have my test project. And what is interesting here is that, again, I'm able to install small NuGet package that's called test helper. So RavenDB tests.helpers. And when I install it, I'm able to create a RavenDB in memory and perform my tests.
Can you just zoom a little bit?
Let me zoom.
Great, that's fine.
So what you can see here, I'm writing BDD test without any frameworks. I'm just testing, okay, so this is like given this, when I call my endpoint, what needs to happen? Status is returned, one entry is created in database, etc. And what I have here, I'm testing if content was created in my in-memory RavenDB database. So in-memory instance will be spun up, tests will go over that, and I'll get my test passing, and this in-memory version will be disposed. So RavenDB, from that perspective, is good because you can start, you can sit, and within an hour or two, you can have like first visible results of your code. What is also interesting is the interesting licensing model. If you take a look at the GitHub, you will see that RavenDB is completely open source. As you can see, they are developing it here on the GitHub. And licensing model is interesting because you have ability to approach it from several angles. First thing is you can go and register your developer license, which is completely free. And you can start right away, so there's no restriction on it. There's interesting community license, which is free and which is suitable for commercial usage. It has some restrictions. Some more advanced features are not present here. So as you can see, like things like external replications and non-local backups and ETLs are missing from community license. But for example, this is suitable for commercial projects. So when you start working with developer license and then you switch to production, you can go and obtain completely free community license, which can support your commercial product running on your servers. So you can start with zero budget for a database, build something, and then when you start making money, you can go to more advanced licenses. Also, there's ability for you to go to RavenDB Cloud. This is Managed Cloud, and you can simply go and create free account. So this is one node cluster, which is free, and you can register here, create your cluster, and start working with it in the matter of minutes. So I think for small guys, small hobby projects, this is great choice because it's free. Community is growing day by day, and you're able to use your database with low ceremony, as I said. So in a couple of lines of code, you're up and running.
Great. And you also answered some questions that we had here regarding the license, I think. Just let me say thank you to Eduardo for your sponsor. This is very cool to have you here. And there are some questions here regarding replication in Raven. How does it works? And that there's another question regarding being open source, but we can get back soon to it. So regarding replication, do you have something to tell about us?
Yeah, so what I will do, I will create a cluster. It will take a couple of minutes. We can talk about some other topics, and then we can get back to but I want to show you how easy it is to create a cluster. So I pick up production, and that's basically it. I need to populate the name of my cluster. I hope you're not mad that I'm using your name.
No, that's fine.
Okay, and that's it. I'm creating now a cluster that will be positioned in North Virginia, and 3 servers in 3 different availability zones will be created here. It takes a couple of minutes for this to be created, and then I can show you replication between these servers.
Great. There's another question regarding which country is RavenDB is more used. Do you know? I'm not sure if this is really relevant for the topics, but it's just...
Well, I don't have statistics, but I know lots of companies from United States are using it. I know lots of German companies. I know there are clients in Switzerland. I know that RavenDB is now popular. Also, that's my impression in Brazil. So all around the world, I would say.
Yeah. Well, there's a question regarding from Emmanuel regarding star procedure, but sorry, but I don't think we are thinking about star procedure. Do we have some capabilities to store scripts or execute scripts on database?
Well, I can show something if it's not too technical. I can show something amazing.
Great, I think it's great.
Okay, so let me start my local instance of RavenDB. Just a moment. I have a nice example, which I think, what was the name of the guy who asked the question?
Emmanuel.
Okay. I think Emmanuel will like this. So let me open my database locally. Just a moment.
By the way, thank you, Emmanuel, for your sponsor.
Okay. So now I'm running, as you can see, my local database. And so I just ran a PowerShell script, and I got my local database running, as you can see, on my machine. So I have something very interesting here. So what I did, I was playing around with machine learning. And what I have here, I went to this website called Kaggle. So this is where you have all these big data sets that you can use to train machine learning. So I downloaded this sample data set of almost 15,000 tweets about airlines. So as you can see, this is one of the tweets. There's text here. Okay. And so what I did, I wanted to make example of machine learning that can be used to detect toxic tweets. And then I went and I wrote, I won't go here into too much technical details. I will just show you what I did. So this is index that is judging if what is the sentiment of the tweet. So this index will take all the tweets, extract the text property of the tweet, and apply machine learning here. As you can see, analysis. and then it will create a grade how toxic specific tweet is. But what is interesting here, and now I'm saying that this will blow mind of people who use stored procedures. As you can see here, sentiment analysis.analyze is not supported from RavenDB. This is something from my own code. So what I did, I wrote C# code that is using this machine learning model that I trained. So I use tweets. I use this data set for training where toxic tweets were marked. I trained machine learning model, and now I have this sentiment analysis prediction engine that can, and this is sentiment analysis analyze model that I'm using here. So as you can see, so this is the method that is using machine learning model to characterize tweets as toxic or non-toxic. And as you can see here, I also need to supply a reference NuGet package so this can compile. So I was able to use C# code that I wrote to extend functionality of RavenDB itself. Now, after I did it, RavenDB indexed all 15,000 tweets, and here is the index. So I have toxic and non-toxic tweets. So for example, if I go here, perform search, and say, okay, I want all tweets that have more than 99% of toxicity. So as you can see, these are very toxic tweets with, I mean, there's probably some profanities, for which I apologize. But as you can see, what we have here are the 14 tweets that have toxicity over 99%. So this can be used in real time. You can collect tweets, put them into the database, and your database will, in real time, tag tweets which are toxic. And then you can use that to consume new tweets that are arriving. There's an interesting feature called subscriptions, and I can go into subscriptions. I can go into subscriptions, and I can create subscription from this query. And okay, I have issue with my local database, but what you're able to do here is you're able to create subscription, and this subscription will be consumed by your C# or some other code in real time to get real-time tweets which are detected as very toxic, so you can react to it.
Great. I think that.
Sorry for a bit longer, but I think this is really impressive. So you're able to extend your database. Only your imagination is the boundary. Because what I did here, I used tweets. In other example, what I trained machine learning model. I collected a sample data set to recognize emotions. And then I wrote this index, which is using image classifier to classify employees by their emotions. So what you can see here is that every employee has attachment. And by the way, RavenDB also supports attachments. So as you can see here, every employee has a photo. So what I wrote is the index that is using machine learning to get the photo of the employee and then apply image classification, as you can see. And this is the image classifier machine learning model to tag employees by the emotions. So as you can see, I can see which of my employees are happy, calm, or angry. So for example, I can select all employees which are angry. So there's no limit to the extension of your database.
Yeah, it blew my mind. By the way, I was thinking, how can we reuse our C# code inside our database?
Well, if you're so if you're like a good developer, I'm careful about the choice of words. But if you are writing code that is good, in ideal case, I've been doing some functional programming lately. So if you're writing something that would be called pure functions in functional programming, you will have methods that are only dependent on the input parameters. So as you can see here, or this was some other example. But if you have method like this method in ideal case is only interacting with the input parameters. It's not interacting with the environment. So then you're able to write unit tests on your machine, test code like this, and deploy this to your database.
Yeah, that's great. I think that you got the assemblies for you imported some packages from NuGet also, right?
Yeah, as you
Which
can see here.
import also. I think we can import also from GitHub packages, for example, or something like that.
Yes. So here I'm referencing 4 NuGet packages, like Microsoft Machine Learning Image Analysis, which are used by my code, as you can see.
Yeah, it's amazing. Guys went crazy here on the chat.
I have one more example. It will be fast.
Yeah, please.
So what I did, I also wrote. So as you can see, Laura Callahan is my employee, and this is her biography. And I wrote small biography for Laura. Let me show you. So I wrote something like this. As you can see, I hope you can see my screen.
Yeah.
So this is her biography, and then I attached this as attachment because RavenDB supports attachments. And then I wrote index that is doing something like this. My index is taking, going over all employees, taking Word attachments, taking Excel attachments, and again using additional source functionality to extract text and index it. So as you can see here, very simple code, nothing complicated, code that is extracting Word text from Word file. And as a result, what I have here, if you take a look at these terms, you will know you will recognize the text that I wrote. So I love long walks, flowers, and Netflix. So what now you can do? You can perform search. Which of my employees are mentioning Netflix in their biographies, and then I can buy them subscription for birthday.
Oh, fantastic! That's really awesome.
And what is also interesting is that RavenDB is built on top of Lucene.net, which means that all functionalities of Lucene.net are available to you, so you can use full text search capabilities. You don't need separate solution like Elasticsearch if you want to provide search functionality in your application.
Great. Okay.
And
it's fantastic how we can we have some I say some infinity capabilities.
Yes, and my cluster is now done, so I could answer that question. So let me download and install certificate before I can access my cluster. Okay, so let me open Node A, Node B, and Node C. So what I now have here is the cluster. And this is very interesting because RavenDB is distributed database from the very first day. So what you're looking here is cluster consisting of 3 nodes. And these nodes are communicating. And as long as majority of the nodes in this cluster are up and running, your cluster is healthy, and your cluster is able to perform various operations. So I am at the node A right now. So if I go and create my database, replication factor 3 that you were hopefully able to see here. So when I'm creating new database, there's a replication factor 3, which I, of course, can alter. I can say, okay, I want my database on nodes B and C. But what I decided to go with here is that my database will be on all 3 nodes. So as you can see here, in real time, node B already contains my database. So what I can show you is this topology of my database. So you can see that I have 3 servers, and my database is on all 3 of them. You have master replication between these 3. So if I am on the node A, I have empty database. So if I go and seed some sample data in my empty database, you will see that documents and collections appeared here. If I switch to node B, I'm now on the node B, as you can see. You can see that my new documents were already copied over, replicated over to node B. This way, you're able to have database with high availability. And why is this important? So as you can see here, now I'm on the node C. Let me show you cluster. So this is cluster. So you'll remember seeing these websites that are saying, okay, between Saturday and Sunday, we will have maintenance and we will have some downtime. If you have a cluster with 3 servers, you can perform maintenance without any downtime. So for example, I can decide, okay, I want stronger machines in my cluster, more memory. And what I just did, I issued cluster-wide command for upgrade. So in a few moments, you will see that node A will be red. So node A is red, this machine is being destroyed, new machine will be provisioned. Why is that? While that is happening, cluster consists of nodes B and C, and it is able to work without any problems. So that way you have high availability, and when new machine A is being provisioned here, it will be first synced with the nodes B and C for any new data, and it will be rejoined into the cluster after that.
Wow.
So as you can see, what I'm doing right now, I'm upgrading whole cluster without any downtime. So in 6 to 7 minutes, as long as it takes for all 3 machines to be replaced, I will have completely new cluster, and my application or my website will have 0 downtime.
That's really, really amazing. Great to see that. Very, very nice.
So as you can see, we have new node A now, and now this will proceed with node B, etc., etc.
Yeah. Well, live replication.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. That's nice. Let me ask you some questions because we are almost running out of time. Thank you, RavenDB. Regarding Raven and MongoDB, I don't think that it is time for a comparison now, but the guys are asking if it have more performance than MongoDB or something like that.
I have short answer. In the beginning, Mongo was very fast because it sacrificed transactions and other good properties of a database. Over time, they had to add it back. When it comes to performance, RavenDB is equally fast as MongoDB is. But there are several interesting differences where RavenDB is, in my humble opinion, better. And I will just pick one of them. So here I have a cluster. And as you can see, I'm replacing all the nodes in the cluster. While this is happening, any of the nodes in this cluster can accept writes. With MongoDB cluster, you need to designate one node that will be accepting writes. If that node goes down, your cluster, your application won't be able to accept any kind of writes. And the second significant difference is the query language, because RavenDB query language is very, very natural. So I can go and do something like this. I can say, okay, from orders, and I selected orders. When I say from employees, where first name equals Nancy, I got all employees that have first name Nancy. So learning curve is very, very low. So as you can see,
yes, it's very similar to LINQ, language integrated query.
Yes. So in CSharp, you have LINQ implementation. So you can go, okay, and here is how you filter your employees. Same thing I used here. Same thing I use. So I'm filtering, I'm searching for all employees with the name Nancy. So session.query, where first name equals Nancy to list. That's it.
Great.
And third and last and most important thing that I forgot. What you can see here is I performed, this looks very innocent. And but this filtering query, if you don't have index in your SQL database, this will materialize as table scan. Database engine will go row by row and check this condition. RavenDB has magnificent property that it is able to create automatic indexes. So as you can see here, when I executed this query, RavenDB went and it created automatic index for me. So if I forget to do it, RavenDB will do it for me. RavenDB will prevent me from DDoSing my database. Because if you have something like this on 10, 20, 50 employees, it's not a problem. If I have 100,000 employees, this will kill my database. And this is one of those cases where you deliver your application into production is fast. After 2 years, they are calling you saying, okay, it became very slow. A lack of indexes is one of the reasons why applications are getting slow over time as the amount of data grows.
Well, that's very impressive. That's very nice. I think there are 3 main points that you should really consider.
And also full text search is supported, which is also nice.
Yeah, show some. You said that all Lucene implementations are present on Raven, right? That is really cool. Also, let me thank Ikra for your sponsor. Great, thank you very much. Some guys fell in love with RavenDB. Me also.
So as you can see, I have a product search here, and these are the settings from Lucene.net. So for this name field, as you can see, I can supply any kind of analyzer from Lucene.net that I need. So I can use like Portuguese tokenizer, for example, if I need it. And as you can see, product search managed to extract all the product names, all category names, and you can go in and do search for biscuits right away. And you get results which are very fast. So if I turn the caching off, you get instantaneous results. And this is full text search.
Wow, great. There's another question here regarding clustering. Is it easy to use distinct media types, targets for input-output channels and disks for clustering?
So for clustering, you're using servers or machines. And in this case, what I have here is the cluster consisting of 3 machines. You can see configuration here. What is interesting is that this cluster can be in various interesting topologies. So, for example, I can spin instance of RavenDB on my laptop, and I can join it into this cluster. One of the biggest references for RavenDB is one of the biggest fast food chain restaurants. It's not Burger King. It's some other big fast food chain restaurants. They are using RavenDB. So when you go to that restaurant, point of sale is running on top of RavenDB. But why I'm telling this? They have cluster consisting of 1.5 million RavenDB instances.
What?
So every point of sale contains a RavenDB, and this RavenDB is pulling price list from central location.
It raises me a question here. Does it support offline database, and it had some sort of sync mechanism to sync the database from the POS to the
Yes. So this is the lecture you can observe to watch developers talking about this migration. But what they are using specifically is this feature. Let me show you. So they are using replication hub and sync. So you have one central location where you can put price list, or you have a new menu, you put it here, and then 1.5 million databases, which are on the edge in the restaurants, will pull new content from central location. And these restaurants can go offline. They will continue to operate. You'll be able to sell your meals without any problems. When they go back online, they will check if there are new things here to pull. But the replication goes the other way around. You can push sales statistics from every point of sale into central database. There's even option to go with filter replication, and that's intended for the environments where you cannot trust. So you can have hospitals, and you can have doctors having their laptops with RavenDB. But they will be able to access and replicate only their patients. So every doctor will only have database with his own patients on his laptop, and he won't be able to update patients which are not his or hers.
Wow. I told you this question regarding the offline, that because it's a common problem that we face here, because poor internet connection, we usually do the POS offline and then sync the data to the database.
The other example of this is that you have cargo ships with this configuration. They go onto the ocean. They are offline. The moment they arrive at the port, they just plug in Ethernet cable, and then over secured line, HTTPS completely protected, as you can see, TLS 1.2, connection is made to the central location.
Great. Just one more question. Sure. Does it works for Raven embedded?
Yes. So Raven embedded is completely binary identical to proper Raven. And you can also join, so you can have machines on the edge in various configurations. You can have, I don't know, trucks or buses with devices that are using RavenDB and then sending data to the central location.
Wow. Fantastic. Great. Very great. Just let me say hello to Código Fonte TV, which is a famous, I think that this is the most famous YouTube channel here in Brazil, the development YouTube channel here in Brazil. They're great. Thank you, guys. Can we do some more questions?
Sure, of course. I would be happy to.
Okay. How much the memory managed by RavenDB, does it use much of .NET garbage collector or something like that? I think that this is a very technical question, right?
So let me, before I answer that, I think there's a lecture here, which you can observe. Let me share that link with you, so you can share it with guys. The story is RavenDB is doing part of unmanaged memory management and allocation. So RavenDB allocates memory, and then because allocation is expensive, because later on garbage collector takes significant amount of time to collect all this, so RavenDB is pre-allocating amount of memory, and then it's managing it on its own. And in this lecture, you have very interesting lecture by Oren, who is describing all these tricks, approaches that were used. So, for example, he's showing this simple piece of code and telling you, okay, this allocates this amount of memory. How do I know? Because I was doing profiling. So RavenDB is doing all kinds of tricks to make things fast. So when you try to do load testing of RavenDB, you know what biggest problem is? To find enough load to saturate it. And then you saturate your network card, for example, that becomes bottleneck. Or so RavenDB is highly performant. It can achieve 1 million write operations per second on commodity hardware without any problems. So in most cases, you know how with, for example, SQL Server, at least some of the developers I know, they say, okay, we're starting with SQL Server. We'll put Redis in front of it for the caching. With RavenDB, you get rid of these fears. RavenDB is very performant. It can serve you well, and you stop thinking about it. And also, not only memory, when it comes to, let me show you something. When it comes to storage, so for example, you have this interesting feature. Observe that I'm now in the managed cloud, but I'm able to capture stack traces from the threads in the CPU of this machine, which I'm leasing from AWS, and I'm able to observe, okay, my database is now idle, but I'm able to observe all these threads and their CPU allocations. And I'm able to detect if something is slow, and to detect any kind of bottlenecks that I might need. So RavenDB tries to be very transparent. So if I go into, for example, this demo database, I can see allocation. What I can see is IO stats. I can see if something is slow. I can pinpoint and see what operations were happening. Or I can inspect storage that was consumed by my collections. And what you can see here is some pre-allocated buffers. So this is not memory, this is hard drive. So you can see that RavenDB pre-allocated some space on a hard drive to be fast. But as you can see here, I'm able to go and see which collection takes which amount of memory. So lots of things are transparent, and I can observe everything. RavenDB is not shy if there are any problems. So you can see when I was upgrading cluster, at one point in time, node B was not available. So RavenDB reported this back to me.
Wow. That's really impressive. Great. Nice.
So you can see pre-allocated buffers here as well. So lots of pre-allocations, of course, within reasonable boundaries, is made in order to prepare and to be fast.
Yeah. You did a very good job over the RavenDB, right? I'm very impressed. Great. Well, let me. I have 2 more questions for you, Jen. Then I promise that they are the last question. The first question is, I think we have discussed the other questions here, which is the pricing tiers. You already told the benefits of NoSQL or RavenDB over the other database. You also answered this question. The difference from RavenDB from other database, you also pointed that. You showed some cases, right? Point of sale and thing. And you show some code sample also. And the two last questions were was about support, right? Do we have some technical support for
Yeah.
Raven? Does it extend to Brazil?
Yes. So there's option for support. So if you go into RavenDB pricing, you can see there's option for various licensing models and ability to purchase various kinds of support. So for community license, there's a Google group, which is very, very good. So usually you will see people who are developers on RavenDB answering on Google groups. And of course, for companies that are doing some actual like commercial products, there's ability to go with support options where you even in depending on the support model, you can go and pick up the phone and call the guys. When it comes to consultants, for example, I think you're aware of existence of Elamar Jr. At least I'm following his blog. I'm using Google Translate to translate his blog to English. He should be blogging more in English. So Elamar is someone who is doing RavenDB for a long amount of years, many years, and he's very proficient. And consultants like Elamar are people who can help you on site.
Great. And regarding the future of RavenDB here in Brazil, I think you are doing some lives. We did this live session, and you also did something with José Roberto, which is from Emerging Code in Portugal, near here, Portugal. And what do you see for Raven in the future here in Brazil, for example?
What I can tell you is when I'm communicating with other developers, I see people migrating from other databases to RavenDB and very, very, very rarely going away from RavenDB to something else. So that's objective proof for me that RavenDB has very bright future. And during this year, 5.2 will be released, and hopefully 6.0 will be released. And in the plans for 6.0 is the last biggest missing feature of RavenDB, which is sharding. So after sharding is implemented, RavenDB has all the features that can support you starting very small and going with really, really big databases. Recently, I was doing some load testing, and we loaded 1.3 billion documents into RavenDB. So 1,300 million documents. It was 1.3 terabytes or 1.7 terabytes, I cannot recall. But RavenDB is a database that can support you as you grow. So that's the main conclusion here. So you can start using it and stop thinking about the database, and you can start writing actual code that's doing the job. So RavenDB, one of the clients I was working with, he told me, like, after 2 years of using RavenDB, our experience is whatever you throw into RavenDB stays here. So RavenDB is able to accept whatever you throw at it and simply work. It's I would dare to say it's like once you first got excited over all these nice features, but over time it becomes like this boring piece of technology that's sitting in the background doing its job, and you forget about it. With RavenDB, for example, Black Friday isn't Black Friday for you anymore, because you know that RavenDB can cluster can sustain any kind of load you put on it. And
right, that's a very good example. And well, I had to admit that I did not know much about RavenDB before this session, and I think I do not know yet, but I will dig deep into the documentations and the demos, because I have no words to say how impressed I was with your demos. Your short demos, that because we discussed a little bit early for this talk, and we we talked that we were not going too deep on technical details, but if the guys like, we can do another session and more hardcore and put
sure,
some
I would
code.
be glad to. I maintain for developers among your listeners. I'm having. I sent you a link with. I'm collecting all these interesting resources on RavenDB. There's more and more community projects, and ecosystem is steadily building around RavenDB.
Great, I'm sending link here. I put on the screen also. Great, guys. I don't think we have more questions for this talk. We have some other technical questions, but I think that you're more focused on not so deep technical on this question. And also we had spent all of our time. So I want to thank you very much, John, for your time, for your presentation. I think that everybody that saw this talk was amazed by RavenDB and felt in love, as someone said on the chat. And I think that this is the first talk, but we can get back for more technical sessions here and maybe share more great features with the guys, right?
Sure, I'd be glad to. So let's listen to the community. If there's interest in more technical topics, we can show things like machine learning with RavenDB, how you can extend, or interesting setups with topology if you have like multiple data centers, replication between them, and things like that.
Yeah, that's great. Let's hear from the guys what they want to learn, and then we can bring you back here and show them some piece of code, more code, more features like that. So
I would be glad to.
yeah, great. So I will put some links on the every link that we shared on the chat here. I will put on the video description. Okay, so you can find it there. And I want once again to thank you, Diane. Thank you all the guys that are behind RavenDB. They are so welcome to me. And great. See you next time. And I hope you had enjoyed this talk, and we can discuss again in the future. Right. Great. So
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you. See you later.